You are now listening to Tough Tiger Talk Flash Report.
All right, shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all being in this episode of Tough Tiger Talk. I'm Big Q. Chiming in on the special Tigers broadcast, man. Listen, Brian Kelly is no more. He's no more the head coach of the LSU Fighting Tigers. This news came not too long ago, man. And we kind of did the recap stream yesterday after the loss to Texas A&M. And you can look at the energy and see Coach Kelly like he was worn out, man. He was a beat man. He was just defeated. He was a defeated man, and it showed, man. And so a lot of rumors broke out on Saturday that they were actually, the boosters really came in. You know, they were asking and making these demands to coaches. The athletic director was making demands of him to change his staff. That was the original ones. He left frustrated. According to reports from the facility, he did not want to get rid of. They didn't name which coordinators, but ultimately LSU just says, you know what, let's just go ahead on and cut bait, which is very interesting because Kelly's never been fired at none of his previous stops. And LSU, like we said, when you come to LSU, it's a different level, man. And they canned him after 4 seasons. So anyway, let's look at it. Here's the report right here. Right here, for the third consecutive Sunday in October, major college football coaching job has opened up. LSU's the biggest of them all. Brian Kelly is out midway through his 4th season at LSU, and a night after the third loss of the 2025 season, LSU was blown out 49-24 by Texas A&M, which scored 35 unanswered points to win in Tiger Stadium for the first time since 1994. LSU season began with the national championship aspirations, a road win against Clemson, and then the Tigers' first season opening win under Kelly sidetracked very quickly with consecutive losses to Vanderbilt and Texas A&M. Now, Kelly, who stunningly left Notre Dame for a chance to win his first FBS national championship, never even made the college football playoff at LSU. He won a division title in his first season in 2022, but he never finished higher than 13th in the final CFP standings. Kelly is the first LSU coach to not win a national championship since Jerry DiNardo. Y'all remember that guy? Whose tenure ended after the 1999 season. Kelly finished his tenure 34-14, having lost multiple games in SEC play in all 4 seasons on the Bayou. Now, with him out of the way, what do we do now? LSU's coaching change throws another surprising twist into an incredible active coaching cycle. Although Penn State and Florida are both A-list jobs, LSU is on a tier of its own. LSU is the only Power 4 program in a state rich with talent. The fact that 3 very different coaches, Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Ogeron, won national championships there speaks to the job's potential and overall excellence. The politics and occasional dysfunction around LSU are baked in. Athletic Director Scott Woodard's future is also in question after the Kelly hire failed so miserably and led to a $54 million buyout. That's crazy money. But the potential at LSU is massive, and every candidate knows what the program can be with everything's aligned as well. So shout out to Adam Rittenberg. These are 5 coaching candidates for LSU. Y'all tell me if you like any of these names. And also feel free, fam, if you're in there, to feel free to hit the like button and chime in and tell me who you guys think would be a good addition to the team. Bringing in what coaching candidates you guys like. Throw it in the chat. Let me know how you feel. All right, so this is the first one. 5 candidates. Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin. LSU's firing of Kelly could be bad news for Florida, which has made little secret of its desire to bring Kiffin to Gainesville. Perhaps Florida can still get its man, but Kiffin should be near or at the top of LSU's wish list. He would have to deal with in-state competition there and will lead a program with few of any limitation with resources, facilities, and the fan base. Kiffin is 51-19 at Ole Miss and has the Rebels positioned for their first CFP appearance this season, which could end up hurting his chances to take another job. But he doesn't need to be sold on LSU's history and the recruiting advantages. The 50-year-old is 112-53 as an FBS coach. So Brian Kelly gone. So is it Lane Kiffin? How do y'all feel about Lane Kiffin? Lane Kiffin taking a job. I don't know if I like that, and maybe it's because of the history of Lane Kiffin and the stuff that we've seen him do. You know, he's not, you don't want a guy that come onto the program and then ultimately leave. And there's question marks. I don't think Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss. I think he really likes Ole Miss and what he's building there. You know, he's kind of doing a good job there. I don't know if he leaves Ole Miss. That's one thing to talk about. Anyway, Tulane's coach, John Summerall, arguably the hottest name outside the Power Four, will have his opportunities to lead high-profile programs soon, especially in the SEC. Summerall's 43 is already in the state at Tulane, which is 15-6 under his watch in position for a possible American Conference title and his first CFP appearance this season. He also was an assistant at Tulane from 2012 to 2014 and knows the recruiting scene in and around New Orleans as well as anyone. The jump to a Power Four and a program like LSU can't be ignored, but those who know Summerall expect him to transition well. He played in the SEC at Kentucky and coached the linebackers at Ole Miss in Kentucky before landing his first head coaching job at Troy, which led to consecutive Sun Belt titles. Summerall is 38-10 as an FBS coach. So this is a interesting name on the scene. It's not a name that I think that that the Tigers, right, that LSU would want to have. Summerall. Summerall's a good coach, right? And he has a pretty decent resume, but this is not like an LSU coach. This Summerall is more like a Florida Gator, like they did with Billy Napier, bringing him there. That's a lesser school like a Kentucky or one of these type of things. No disrespect, but I don't think John Summerall is the name that LSU's looking at. How about this name? Marcus Freeman. Remember, we were trying to get Marcus Freeman, I think, as the defensive guy. He ended up taking a Notre Dame job. Would LSU successfully swipe Notre Dame's coaches twice in a row? It's hard to say. Should LSU make inquiries about Freeman? Absolutely. He has established himself as one of the sport's top young coaches at 39. Freeman is the first Notre Dame coach to win the college football playoff game 3 years, in fact, as he guided the Fighting Irish to the national championship game last fall. He's 38-12 as Notre Dame's coach and has the team positioned for a possible CFP return if it can win out. Coincidentally, Freeman turned down LSU's defensive coordinator job with Orgeron to join Kelly at Notre Dame. He spent his entire career in his native Ohio or neighboring Indiana, and a move to the SEC could be jarring. Freeman ultimately might target the NFL as his next step, but he would at least have to consider a top program like LSU. Now, that is very interesting. That is very interesting that you would look at Freeman. So when you pivot from Brian Kelly, who is an experienced coach, then what does the next LSU coach look like? Would he be a Marcus Freeman type? Would they pivot from an experienced guy like Kelly to a Summerall to a Freeman, or maybe Kiffin is another name? I don't think he leaves. Georgia Tech, Brent Key. Georgia Tech's guy. He's an alma mater position for a run at the ACC title. The Keys are actually pretty good. Wouldn't leave for any other job, but he would have to consider LSU. No stranger to the program after coaching Alabama's offensive line from 2016 to 2018 under Saban and participating in the annual LSU Showdown. Keys, 47, grew up in Alabama, spent his entire career in the Southeast, including more than a decade at UCF in various roles. He's 26-16 at Georgia Tech as a first-time head coach and has thrived in big games and his 7-1 record against ranked ACC opponents. He would bring a clear recruiting vision and an approach based upon the line of scrimmage to LSU. That is something that we definitely need. Missouri coach Elijah Drinkwitz. After Kiffin, Drinkwitz would be a top SEC coaching candidate who will look to move within the conference. He has led Missouri since 2020, has built a consistent, respected program, 27-7 since the start of that 2024 campaign, and with a number 8 finish in the Cotton Bowl title in 2023. He's an Arkansas native who came up with Gus Malzahn and could work with Auburn early in his coaching career, and has taken some SEC heavyweights, but also is leading one of the conference historic powers. Now, should LSU want an upgrade on his offense, He can be an aggressive and successful recruiter, given recruiter reach and resource to LSU. He could really do some damage there. So that's what Rittenberg says. Is some of these interested players, these coaches, somebody that you guys would be interested in? Would some of these guys would you be interested in? Now check this list of names out as well from this report and tell me what y'all think. Here we go.
Florida, you mentioned Penn State among some others, but now that we're looking at LSU, which candidates, and I'm talking either internal or external, should maybe LSU look at to replace Kelly? Who or what makes the most sense just given their current roster?
Well, I'll tell you what, Lane Kiffin would obviously be an explosive hire, and they would have to fight Florida for that, but also they have to fight the college football playoff for that because Ole Miss is on the track to make the playoff, and I'm not so certain that Lane Kiffin would want to leave his team potentially while they're making a playoff run. And also, would LSU or Florida want to wait into January potentially when after their early signing period and also potentially after the one transfer portal window that starts January 2nd? That's a very tough ask. But other names I would really consider, but maybe LSU would actually look down on, is an in-state coach. That's Tulane coach John Summerall. He's someone whose name is going to come up in some other searches potentially here later on, especially if the job at Auburn comes open later this year. John Summerall is someone that will be targeted there, I'm told. And then also at Ole Miss, if Lane Kiffin were to leave for Florida, for example, I think John Summerall is someone that could be looked at for Ole Miss. So there's a lot of coaches out there at the group of six level that could get some looks. But jobs like LSU and Florida, they're going to want to make a big splash and go after someone big here. I would be very fascinated to see if athletics director Scott Woodard, who is a guy who wants to make big splashes, every single one of his hires or near hires have been like that. Even back when Jimbo Fisher was at Texas A&M. Remember, the reason why Jimbo Fisher got that big contract at Texas A&M the second time was because they were afraid LSU and that athletics director was going to come calling and throw all the money in the world at him.
That's right.
If he is leading this search once again, they're going to throw a lot of money at some big-time candidates and maybe even have a surprise or two up their sleeve.
LSU, one of those schools that...
This is indeed the truth, man. And Woodard, he's absolutely right about about A.D. Woodard. So what would be a splash coach to you? What do you guys think? And like I said, we're not done yet. The college season is still twisting and turning. There are going to be other names to kind of throw at. And you can see right here, they had a list of names to put up here. And like I said, this is not going to stop. These are the names right here you had listed right here. You can see right here. You can see Lane Kiffin. We talked about him. Marcus Freeman was a name. James Franklin, Joe Brady, Nick Saban. These are very interesting names. Would Woodard bring Saban back? Would you guys be interested in bringing Nick Saban back? Remember, Nick Saban did admit in an interview with Ryan Clark on his podcast about having regrets about leaving LSU. This could be one where he fixes it. But the thing is, it would be so cool having Nick Saban back. But Nick Saban left because of the NIL thing. Could that be a drawback to him? Now, you usually have these NIL, what they call it, not a manager, but a person that kind of helps the coach understand with the NIL thing. So they have something to that degree. But is Saban beyond? Is he beyond that threshold in terms of being a coach? Or will we be kind of reaching from a nostalgic standpoint? I don't know. If you're a splash hire, what would be a splash hire for LSU? Lane Kiffin? Lane Kiffin could be qualified as a splash hire for LSU. He'll definitely get your offense going, right? He'll definitely get your offense going, but in terms of like him staying long term or whatever, I don't know if you want that, however, but he would definitely get your offense going. Freeman's very interesting. Franklin is interesting as well. I just don't think he's the splash hire. Both him and Freeman don't fit that. Nick Saban is interesting, and Joe Brady. I don't know if Joe Brady's been in the NFL for several years now, working in different offensive roles and offensive coordinator. Yet, would you consider bringing him back to LSU? But if you're LSU, you're going to look to bring in a coach who is going to be a one that's ready to take it to the next level. You don't want to bring in anybody that's going to be a guy that's going to not do what Kelly did. Like, you want somebody that comes in and takes what's here, recruits, and bring it to the next level. And whoever you bring, you want them to do it fast, right? Like, we had 4 years of falling short. And really, when they first signed Kelly, I did not anticipate it ending like this. I thought that eventually we'll get to a position where a plateau where he would win a championship or something to that degree. I did not envision a scenario where Brian Kelly would get fired middle of the season in his fourth year. But it happened. It's a big demand to win in the SEC. LSU doesn't play. And whoever comes here has to understand that they're going to be tasked. We'll be patient to a degree, but you'll be tasked for winning right away. Which one of these candidates gets that fits that parameter, that understands the pressures of coaching in LSU, will bring the resume to get it, to make it happen. Now, like we talked about James Franklin with Penn State and all this kind of stuff, had a success there, kind of fell off the cliff later on. Nick Saban, rumors were Nick Saban was interested in getting back into the game coaching. Could this be a situation where Woodard, who's very intelligent, had something all kind of waiting behind the scenes? Like I got something that I got cooking back here, but if this guy don't handle up and do this, let me put his ass in the street. Well, with Brian Kelly done, then it opens these lists, and this list will continue to grow, and we'll postulate more on this stuff as we move forward. Quite a few names on the list. All right, so anyway, let's keep it going, fam, as we can keep positioning here, and this is another thing, a point of contention too, as we move forward. As Coach Kelly leaves and as he's fired and forced out, the next thing we would have to kind of focus on is the players that we have. Like, of course, when he leaves, there are a few players here that we want to see if we can retain to kind of help, kind of ease the pain, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Moving forward, and we'll just have to watch out going forward. But like I said, man, this is going to be very interesting, man, for the rest of the season. Of course, you guys know that who will take over for the remaining of the rest of the season will be the associate head coach, which is Mr. Frank Wilson, will serve as the interim coach for the remainder of the season. And it's going to be interesting, man. That this is big here. All right, so anyway, let's hit this up and look at a few of these folks as well. To talk about, how about cornerback DJ Pickett? We really big on DJ. One of the Tigers' most talented defenders. As soon as he set foot on the campus, he's a 5-star true freshman from Florida. They rapped and raved about his size. He's 6'5", 200-pound cornerback. They don't just get these guys anywhere. So he gave up about 7 catches for 70 yards on 16 targets, 0 passing touchdowns, 1 interception through his first 7 games. Big time potential. DJ Pickett, they need to retain him. Tight end Trey Green, sophomore pass catcher, emerges as one of the top Tigers weapons this season. 21 catches, 264 yards. Matchup nightmare, 6'7", 240-pound athlete, fastest tight ends in the country. Max speed almost 20 miles per hour this season, according to Teamwork's data set. Whit Weeks, first team All-SEC selection, will have to decide at the end of the year if he's ready to enter the draft or rather come back for his senior year. 6'2", 230-pounder, missed some games, as well. He hurt his ankle. He's on the mend, but he started 20 career games and produced over 200 tackles. And he's just a stellar player. Getting him back will be big. Harlem Berry. Harlem Berry was cutting it up in the first half of the Texas A&M game, and he's tight. One of the number 1 ranked recruiter running back in the 2025 class. Looked really good yesterday. 5'11", 190 pounds, rushed for 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 yards per carry in his first start there. Caden Durham, health is an issue, but Berry is the future. How about Carius Kern? A number 133 overall player in the ESPN 300, learning how to play there. He's a top 10 SEC opponent, making his first career start at the tackle position against Ole Miss, then moved to the left tackle against Texas A&M, kind of struggled. 6'5", 320 freshman, got injured in Aggies games, but flashed some big potential. Some of these guys, you want to be able to retain talent like these. These are playmakers here. These are the playmakers: Trey Green, DJ Pickett, Whit Weeks, Harlem Berry, Carius Kern. These guys are playmakers. You want to retain these for whatever coach you bring in. And of course, these are some of the recruits too that LSU has, that Coach Kelly was working with. His top 3 recruits: defensive tackle Lamar Brown, number 1 in ESPN's 300. He committed back in July under Coach Kelly. If LSU is able to kind of hold on to him, and he'll be the program's first #1 overall recruit since Leonard Fournette back in 2014. This guy's a 6'5", 285 pounder from Louisiana, attends high school there in Louisiana. Multiple schools still chasing after him, including Texas A&M, Miami, and others. So you would want to make sure you kind of keep hold to him. Both programs flirting with the college football playoff contention, so things could change with Coach Kelly being is out. They would do themselves a tremendous service to try to retain Lamar Brown coming into this upcoming season for next season. Trenton Henderson, number 61 in the 300, 4 cycles since the Tigers signed a top 100 defensive end prospect. Henderson kicked off a strong run at LSU summer recruiting. What he did, versatile edge rusher from Pensacola. Picked the Tigers over Florida, Texas, Auburn, and Michigan. Was also involved in Henderson's process earlier. Highly productive sack machine. Junior and senior seasons there. Henderson will likely surely attack the late cycle interest from major programs if he opens up his recruitment. So keep an eye on Trenton Henderson, and wide receiver Jabari Mack is also another one. High level wide receiver commit, but the program struggled to get signed in the last stages of Kelly's tenured head around DeCorian Moore's decommitment in 2025. 5-star 2026 pass catcher Tristan Keys flipped to Tennessee in August. Given recent history, prospects like Mack will be critical to the Tigers' future pipeline at the position. 6 feet tall, 200-pounder from Destrehan is viewed as a potential high-impact player, a vertical threat at the next level, and why it would spin finalists Ohio State, Texas, and Texas A&M could be among the programs trying to look at Jabril Mack and get him to kind of recommit, or open up his recruiting for potential. So these are some of the players, and when we talk about losing Coach Kelly, the recruits that you want to retain, some of these players that you want to bring back for the next coach, whoever it may be, and the potential coaches, man, and it's just one of those things that we all looking at and hoping that we shall see how it all kind of ferrets out. Like I said, there's still a lot of stuff to talk about with LSU, and we're not going to cover it all in this broadcast, but there are quite a few names that's on that list for those guys. Let's look at this before we end it. Y'all put in your comment section, like I said, who do you guys like? This is 12 candidates for the LSU job. This is from SI. This is their opinionations on what they think, who should or potentially could be lined up for the LSU job. We talked about Lane Kiffin. We already gave the breakdown on Lane Kiffin. They talk about Dan Lanning from Oregon. This is another interesting. If Woodard's allowed to make the next hire, there's little question he will target a big name. That's Lanning right now, though there are questions over would he leave Oregon? Even for a job like LSU, his buyout exit, both with the school and beyond, is so massive that others with deep pockets have rebuffed. But LSU has deep pockets. That's the thing. They could pay Coach Kelly $54 million to skedaddle and still get ready to bring in a big name. They don't play the small name game. They want the big names, right? Guys with credentials that can come in and galvanize the program as soon as possible. Joe Brady, who's currently the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. We know, the boosters will agitate for Brady to return, given the connection that he had here. You know how he ran one of the top LSU offenses of all time with Joe Brady. Joe Burrow operating there. So this will be interesting. Is Joe Brady an option? Jeff Brown from Louisville is another guy to talk about. These are some of the options right here. Rhett Lachey from SMU. You see, we talked about Drinkwitz from Missouri, Willie Fritz from Houston. Now, this is a former Tulane coach who went over to Houston. He's 65 years old, but this is a good coach. He was able to take Tulane and turn them around and make them respectable. And then Summerall took them over, and they've really elevated. So Willie Fritz is in Houston. I don't think he's an LSU guy. Dabo Swinney, do you really want Dabo? I don't. I think Dabo has some problems in Clemson. He might need a change of scenery, but would that be a call for LSU? That is very interesting. How about Kenny Dillingham from Arizona State? Dillingham's another interesting hire. Grew up in Phoenix. Dillingham is a prototype of what it would be a head coach in a modern era. Passionate about building bonds and relating to his players. This is a really solid recruiter, but is he a LSU coach? Lincoln Riley from USC. Before landing Kelly, he was one of the ones that they wanted. This is true. Good game here. Remember, Lincoln Riley is who Woodard was going after. He rebuffed him. And could this be a chance for Lincoln Riley to get into the SEC with LSU. Kelly was the one LSU had its sights on. Could a second pass work out for the Tigers? For a head coach who hasn't proven to be a good fit in the Big Ten, while his program is building, has taken a hit the last few years with the Trojans. There's no denying his great play calling ability, incredible offenses he's put out there. Lincoln Riley, John Summerall, who's the current Tulane coach. We talked about him. And of course, no, absolutely not to this other guy, Doug Nussmeier. Absolutely. You won't talk about your offense staggering and being bland and all this kind of stuff. Don't hire that guy, absolutely not. Too much east to west stuff, not enough verticality at all. And he don't have the leadership abilities, in my opinion, to be a head coach, to be quite honest with you. No disrespect, with him. He'll love to coach his own son, but that would be a disaster for us. But anyway, that's a list of some of the people that we covered here. And like I said, we'll bounce back at another date to be able to see what's happening. What's up, Trey? He said, so happen that he said, we so happy we've been softer than Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard's a Hall of Famer, bro. He did a lot of screwy stuff, but Dwight Howard is a Hall of Famer, to be honest with you, bro. He was put in the Hall this year, so that's very interesting in itself. But anyway, y'all let me know in the chat, man, how y'all feel about who should be the next LSU coach. Remember, they make splash hires. Is it James Franklin? Is it Lincoln Riley? It's going to be one of the top fives. If it's the coach from Oregon, that would be another one. It's going to be a splash coach that they're going for. They have the resources. They have the money. They have the will. They're not going to play games with who the next head coach is going to be. The Boosters is not playing any games. Kelly had a window. He had to win that Texas A&M game. If he didn't, then he would be out, or his coaches. They wanted to kind of work with the guy, but in the end, he would not give up. And I'm thinking it's Sloan. Sloan was the guy who they really wanted to fire. Y'all probably seen the footage with him on the headset cussing at Sloan. And Sloan was, he had to take it. He was also complaining about the special teams coordinator. But Sloan was one of the guys, they wanted Sloan gone, the special teams coordinator. Perhaps the defensive coordinator had been doing a lot anyway, but with Kelly gone, we're going to get a new coach and a whole new staff. The only thing is we got to see about retaining as much as we can. We talked about some of the guys we need to retain, Whit Weeks and the rest of these guys for the upcoming season. We have to solve the quarterback position. How do y'all guys feel about Van Buren? Van Buren was actually looked pretty solid in that matchup, didn't he, fam? I was looking at the game, I was like, man, Nussmeier is he's a statue back there. He can move slightly here or there. He's a statue with no athletic ability. But when Van Buren got in on that last trash drive, the pressure from Texas A&M came from. Matter of fact, they sacked him once, I want to say. Roughed him up a couple of times. But in the end, he was able to move around, use his legs, and kind of get outside of the pocket, make throws. He found Kyle Parker in the back of the end zone. And he looked pretty good in there. That's who you got lined up right now as the quarterback of the future. So whoever the new coach is, they're going to have to bring in their own quarterback unless they're cool with Van Buren. Van Buren actually looked pretty decently back there. I was thinking they should have went to him earlier, but Brian Kelly wanted to live and die with Nussmeier, and guess what? He died with Nussmeier. Nussmeier is not a first round. He's not. I ain't going to go in on a kid like that because, obviously this is a down year for him. But in the end, this is really something, man. Kelly is no more, family. Brian Kelly is no longer an LSU head coach. He's gone. Tigers fired him today and made Coach Wilson the interim for the rest of the year. So they got 2 weeks to go. They're off this week, and they gear up for Alabama in 2 weeks, going to Tuscaloosa to take them on up there. That is going to be interesting. 1-3 LSU. This is what got Brian Kelly fired. The LSU Tigers, outside of the Clemson win that started the year off, LSU was 1-3 over the last 4 games, and they only won. I think the only one came against a non-ranked opponent. The 3 losses were all against ranked opponents. 1-3. Texas A&M blowout, the Vanderbilt loss, and what was the other game that skips me? So many stinky losses. What was the other loss, fam? Ole Miss. The Ole Miss loss. Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and Texas A&M. 1-3, that got you done. When you lost that third one, that got them done. Especially getting blown out in Death Valley like that. Cancel dinner. Cancel dinner. All right. Yeah. 0 play. Yeah. This is Nuss is, yeah. So this is the thing. Like I said, James, what's up, James? James said should have offered Nick Saban that. But Saban rumored, like I said, I don't think that's what Woodard does. If I'm Woodard, and like I said, I want y'all to put in the chat, what coach, you have one chance. LSU has unlimited resources. They are very wealthy. In a respected school, LSU recruits well. Which coach, one coach, if you can get, which one would it be? Because LSU, it don't matter if you're available or not. LSU's known to pull away available coaches elsewhere. They can pull you, like did Brian Kelly, that pulled him away from Notre Dame. He couldn't establish anything here. I think what really killed him is the fact that he could not solve, like in this year coming up, he lost a lot of talent to the draft, a lot of offensive linemen to the draft last year. But that line wasn't as dominant as we thought they were going to be. Just to be honest with you, some of them guys went to the league, but that line was nowhere as dominant as we thought they were supposed to be. When we started this year, the question mark was the offensive line for LSU. He used the transfer portal to help the defensive line and add safety help and cornerback help on the opposite side. But in terms of the offensive line, it just didn't translate into anything. They couldn't get any solidified play from the offensive line. And it don't matter who it was, whether it was Law Tech or anybody else, they would get pressure on LSU's offensive line. Too much pressure. And these guys have to stand up, open up lanes for running backs to run, and also allow Nussmeier opportunity to throw the ball. Nussmeier's a statue back there, so if you're a team like Texas A&M, like Cassius that can get after you, man, you got to sit and duck back there. The guy can't get out of harm's way. And like Van Buren, he can scoot out and run around and make plays and force you to have to scout him and pull guys away from coverage, that sort of thing. They don't have that to worry about. If I can rush 4 and drop everybody else in coverage, I got Nussmeier. Because sooner or later, the gunslinger in him will force him to think that, I see him positioning between 3 defenders. I'm going to force this ball in this tight window because I'm a gunslinger, and it gets him in trouble. Questionable decision-making all year long for Nussmeier, whether he was banged up or not. Coach Kelly it was too much of making excuses, man. That's what the reporters, you don't get mad at the reporters for asking questions about why you can't run the ball. And he lost it, man. We was talking about during the season, during the Tough Tiger Talk recap show, like this guy's losing it, man. The pressure of winning was really crushing him. You could see his face would be red and all this kind of stuff. You get chippy with the reporters, and all this kind of stuff. And people wanted answers, and he was doing a little too much spinning. He was doing too much goddamn splaining. And people did not want to hear that they put the X down on his ass and got him up out of here. That Texas A&M debacle, there wasn't no way he could talk his ass out of that one. Ain't no, I'm proud of my kids and all. No, and no. So, man, I don't know, man. In the end, we'll see. Nick Saban, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. I think it's got to be a splash. These people, Woodard is known for, he does that on purpose. He's a splash hire AD. Some of these other names like Marcus Freeman and Joe Brady, these are not splash hires. A splash hire would be like Lane Kiffin. A splash hire would be like Lincoln Kennedy. What's his name? What's the man? What would be a splash hire? I don't know if Franklin would be one. Lane Kiffin would be one. Maybe Dan Lanning, from Oregon. I don't know. Dabo Sweeney. I don't know if I want that, but Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley would be a splash hiring, that sort of thing. And LSU swinging for the fences there to see if they can land stuff like that. So nothing is out of bounds in terms of them reaching for guys, whether they're available or not. Nick Saban, I don't know about Nick Saban. I know that don't seem like something that they want to do, because to me, I think Nick Saban, as great as he was, I don't think Nick Saban is the guy for LSU. moving forward. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know that he's the guy moving forward. And he built the football factory in Alabama. This is true. But that was a younger Nick Saban. And what is he coming back for? What is Nick Saban coming back for? With all these titles and championships he's accomplished, he left the game because how things changed. The NIL era kind of ran him out of here. He know how to adjust to that. So if you're Nick Saban, you know, do you pivot there? It's a lot of things. All right. So anyway, with that being said, man, let me get ready. Yeah, I know James says, how the F you don't win SEC? Yeah, I know with Jaden Daniels, bro. I know, man. Jaden, the defense, bro. Remember, Jaden Daniels was here. He did not, LSU's defense was not good. It was atrocious. We had Jaden Daniels. We were supposed to get a check. That was his when his gift to a title and a championship, bro, was when he got Jaden Daniels to transfer from Arizona State. When he got Jaden Daniels here, that was his opportunity. Like we seen with the previous guys, like with Nick Saban, when you hit Miles, the Mad Hatter, and then of course Coach Orgeron. That was Brian Kelly's moment in the sun when he had Jaden Daniels. But the defense for LSU was so bad, man, so bad. It was ridiculous. And then when Jaden goes to the pros, we got Nussmeier here, and they would the truth is they were letting Nussmeier go off into the sun, go do whatever, go be a 5th round, a 6th round draft pick in the NFL if you even make it. But the reality was they lost out on Underwood. When Underwood went to Michigan, they gave him all that extra money on that NIL. LSU couldn't match it. He had to pivot back to Nussmeier, and that was his downfall right there. He had no backup plan in case Underwood flipped on him. He had no backup plan because he had it all lined up with Underwood and Harlem Berry. Then they had, the wide receivers. They were all lining up. All of them was lining up. But when Underwood flipped on him to take that money with Michigan, he had no fallback option. And and Garrett Nussmeier is not a fallback option that's going to lead to no championship. Just because you had Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, 2 back-to-back Heisman Trophy quarterbacks, that would not be Garrett Nussmeier. He wasn't. Garrett Nussmeier is a gunslinger with questionable decision-making ability. He's non-athletic, and he has some good positives, but he's not a guy that's going to take you to the next level. His decision-making had to improve. He's still making these careless throws into in windows he has no business doing. We know the line is creaky and shaky, which is a recipe for disaster for him anyway, because he can't move. He's not athletic. He's a statue back there. But in the end, it is what it is. He got his win was with Jaden Daniels, and when he couldn't do that, that was a wrap. That sunk his ship. So very interesting. He never been fired before, but you get fired. You're not good enough. You were good enough for Notre Dame. You were good enough for what was up? Cincinnati. He was at Cincinnati before, got them winning. And that just goes to show you it's levels to this shit. You was good enough for them, but you was not good enough for us here at LSU. You have to win to stay here. We're not going to tolerate that. That's one thing I love and respect about LSU is that, the boosters and all of them, they're not going to play that with you. You got to win or you will go. And we don't care if we owe you $60 million. We're going to pay you and get you the F out of here so we can get back to winning. And that's what they did. But they were fair. They offered the man, told him, you got to get rid of this guy. He wanted to keep the guy. Well, guess what? Y'all unemployed. So in the end, man, he go talk to Feinbaum all the damn time. He won't now. He wants to talk to Feinbaum every week about what they need to do. Now, guess what? Him and Feinbaum can start a goddamn show together. They can start a show together on ESPN. Feinbaum and Kelly talking about it. You can talk to them all day now if you want. All right. So anyway, y'all put it in the comment section below. Y'all let me know how y'all feel. Hit that like button. If you're listening via X, please do me a service and retweet this. I ain't gonna say it's the best news of the day because I don't really want to gloat on the fact the man lost his job today. But in the end, it simply is what it is. You either win or go home, and Coach Kelly did not do that. LSU fired him. Frank Wilson is now the interim coach, and we be about the business now of finding out who will be the next coach Still a lot of time, still a lot of names, fam. The season moves on. So anyway, with that being said, I am Big Q, representing the Tough Tiger Talk Nation. Y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed. And I'll be back later on in the week with another Tough Tiger Talk update. Much love. Peace. Go Tigers.